5 minutes' time.
BBC Radio Wiltshire.
First of all, this is a lovely story. Residents at a care home in Salisbury have been treated to a special performance from a safe distance, of course.
Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today.
This is absolutely wonderful, and we're so appreciative of you laying it on for us after we've had 2 or 3 weeks of really being held up, and to get out for once and to see all the other people, many of which we've previously met, but a lot we haven't, and everybody's here thoroughly enjoying it today. And we look forward to having some really good parties in here once the virus is all over.
And find I'm king of the house, top of the heap. These little town blues.
Beautiful afternoon here at Platinum Skies in Salisbury at Constable Court. We're all having a lovely time, keeping our distance but enjoying the music and meeting all our friends that we haven't seen for many days.
It's up to you, New York, New York. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a lovely afternoon.
Hey, that's Chris Manning. Brilliant, that amazing film performance with residents waving Union Jacks, singing along and dancing, and the singing courtesy, as I say, of Chris Manning, who joins me on the programme. Chris, what a lovely idea. Why did you decide to do this then?
Oh, good morning, James. Thanks for having me on. It started a few days into the lockdown. My little boy said to me, Dad, should we do a gig in the front garden? So I did set up my keyboard and started singing some songs, and I realised how powerful it was to communicate with your fellow neighbours, and especially the elderly at this time, who were all listening. And then I sort of had the idea to ring round some care homes off the back of that, really. So I spoke to Platinum Skies, and they were keen on the idea. We just needed to sort of talk it through and sort of figure out the logistics of doing it at a safe, on a safe way, on a safe day. And I'm really pleased that they agreed, because it was such a wonderful experience. And for me, it was just wonderful on so many levels, because it reminded me how powerful music can be. And it certainly binds people together in ways that I may well have forgotten. I've been gigging for 20 years, but when you do a gig like that for people that are vulnerable, that are away from each other, that are doing the right thing, that are in isolation, to see them sort of come together and come out of their rooms and stand on the balconies or come down onto the terrace or their little patios and sit in a courtyard and just see them smiling and singing along. It was truly, truly magical. It was really unlike any other gig that I've done. It was quite emotional, actually, for me at certain times throughout the gig. I had to sort of take a minute and just take my breath and just be thankful that I was doing something that I love. I was doing something that felt relatively normal. And I think we all have to sort of be creative during these times, and don't be defiant, but be creative. And I think it's possible, especially for so many musicians like me who are out of work right across the UK. I don't think there's any harm in speaking to your local care home and saying to them, if you have a courtyard or a space where I can come and perform, then I think it's practical. And if it's fairly close by, not too far from where you live, then I think it'd be a really uplifting thing for a lot of musicians to do.
I see what you mean totally about the music, because last night on my road, our neighbours opposite us came out and their daughters were singing, and it was beautiful, and everybody came out of their doors and just sat and listen to the music, and it really does kind of bind people together. And as I could hear from that clip there, it sounded like the residents of the care home were just really delighted by it.
They were so thankful, and they were singing along. Many of them, sort of age-wise, are obviously quite elderly, from sort of 60s, 70s upwards. One gentleman was in his 80s, waving his Union Jack flags that he had brought down with him. And then they put a small video out. The company Platinum Skies were kind enough to put a small video out on social media to say this is what happened. And as a result, it's had over, I think this morning, over 45,000 views. And I think that's wonderful because I think people are watching it first almost in shock. It's like, is this just happened? But also in a sort of, I think they're sharing it for the right reasons. People are looking at it and going, well, this is wonderful. I think we have to be really mindful about the elderly. There's obviously lots of people having conversations about, well, this is all about young people and making sure that they're healthy. And, we've really got to remember that people of a certain age have lived through wars. they've gone through a lot in their life to give us the freedoms that we've had in our lives to enjoy. So it's making me quite emotional thinking about it now.
No, absolutely. Well, I'd echo that as well. We have to kind of make these sacrifices, not just for us, but for the older generation and for future generations as well. Lovely thing that you did, Chris. Love the video as well. Thank you so much for your time this morning, and lovely idea. Chris Manning, singer who was at a care home in Salisbury, special performance for them, and they looked like they were absolutely loving it, and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to do.